AJ Usyk, the second press conference was happened today. Not very eventful, but it's in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be a fantastic rematch. Robert Garcia is obviously the new man in AJ's corner. How much of a difference do you think he's going to make?
It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting because Robert Garcia is a fantastic coach. Worked with some fantastic fighters. But sometimes that doesn't mean that it works for every fighter. You know, you can have, you can want a fighter to do something, but if he's not built that way to do it, then it might not work.
Do you mean in terms of like the technical aspect of AJ's?
No, I'm very good at picking up technique and things like that. Okay. But I just I don't know because I've never seen him work, so I don't know. But I look at a lot of the fighters that I watch Garcia with. They're very tough fighters, the tough, resilient fighters, sturdy fighters. So they can take those shots and block and ride and take them on gloves and as they're coming in, without. I'm not digging at him, but just as what I've seen, I don't know if AJ if he's that kind of fighter to, you know, because Usyk hits hard enough to hurt him. It's different if you're in against a guy that's just going to and just not going to hurt you at all. But in the first fight, we did see that Usyk did hit hard enough to register. And if you give Usyk the gloves, he uses the gloves to get his clean shots off. So it's interesting. I mean, listen, AJ's got he knows he's got so many things to change from the first fight. I think the whole approach to it was wrong, trying to outbox Usyk, you know, and be too cute. He's going to use his size. He's going to try and be dominant from a physical point of view, but he's also got to get into that position in a smart way. He can't can't walk onto a shot, because people like. I remember when it was at cruiserweight, and everyone thought, because Hook can really punch, and everyone was talking about Hook just going to walk straight to it, and Hook thought he was going to walk straight to it, just launched himself at him. But that's what Usyk's built for. I remember Usyk when he fought Joe Joyce in the amateurs. Joe Joyce is a massive lump, and he at him, and Usyk was just picking him off, boxing. And then ended up where he ended up pushing him back. So Usyk's strong and he's capable of doing that. Obviously, this is, you know, the fighters are different now, and this is older. And AJ is a very good combination puncher in mid range as well. He's very good. He's very, very fast, and he can punch. And he has got that punch. If he lands on Usyk, I would never say that he couldn't knock Usyk out. But he's got to get into that position safely enough, but aggressive, and I just think he's got to get his feet in range to land the body shots. But you have to take away Usyk's legs. While ever Usyk's got the legs in this fight, for me it favours Usyk. If AJ can take away those legs, barring he just walks out and catches Usyk with a big shot straight away. But if it's a fight, then I think he's got to take away the legs, work that body, get Usyk stood in front of him, and then he can start letting go of his shots. But it's an interesting fight. It's a very good fight. And like I said, when we're on the outside, we don't see what they're working on. We don't see anything, and you don't know how it's going to work. But it's a big thing going into a fight like that with a new coach. It's a big thing, you know. And it can either be a genius move or it can be the wrong move. But that's how people judge things on fight night. And one thing I do know is that AJ's got a very, very good mentality where he's a student of the game, and he will study what he did wrong. He will study what Garcia wants him to do, the adjustments he wants to do, and he will adapt to it. But it's one thing adapting to it in head guards, 20-ounce gloves, whatever they're using, and then doing it on fight night against somebody of Usyk's calm, calculated, and intelligence You know, the boxing that he has, it's all from there. Are you telling me that AJ is not going to have anything from there? I think what might help him is the fact that it's in Saudi and he hasn't got the big roar of, like, you know, tens of thousands of fans roaring him on when he ends up fighting with emotion. I think the fact that he's in Saudi might help him a lot, because he has to be very, very, very smart in his aggression. But if he doesn't get off to a good start, then it's a case of going back to a corner with a corner. He's got Angel, so he knows Angel, and he's got the other guys, so that'll help. But that face that's right in front of you, that hasn't been in those moments with you, that can be a telling point as well. So there are a lot of ways to look at this fight. Like I said, I would say that, you know, it's there's a lot for AJ to change, but he showed in the Ruiz rematch. Look how disciplined he was. Look how great his feet were. Look, and I'm not saying he's going to box. He can't box like that way in this fight. No. But what I'm saying is a complete contrast to the first fight, to the second fight. He's proved already he can do that. But Usyk's not Ruiz, and that's the problem that he's got in front of him.
Yeah, Usyk isn't necessarily a puncher either, but obviously he's knocked people out before. Not
you don't have to be a puncher. When people go to talk about, it's big banger versus boxer, the boxer doesn't have to hit as hard as what the banger is. Does that boxer hit hard enough to hit the banger? Yes, he does, because he's hurt him in the first fight.
Can Usyk stop AJ?
So he hits him hard enough to hurt him. So this where people go, but power doesn't matter, and it kind of evens itself out a little bit if the other guy can hurt you as well. Mm-hmm. And in the first fight, who hurt who in the first fight?
It was one-sided, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of. I'm not banking on that. I'm looking on for AJ. He's got that power, and he's got the speed how he puts his shots together. Very good at mid-range. He's got that. I'm not worried about the power. If he can land often enough on Usyk, he can knock Usyk out. Not a problem. I understand that. But the boxing to get into those positions and to be able to do that to Usyk, that's something he's got to show that he's not shown yet. Because if you revert back to when AJ was more aggressive and he was walking forward, he's coming forward and walking people down, more aggressive, more gung-ho as such, that version of AJ will get picked off. So he's got to have the smarts of how he's developed over the line. You can't write that off and say, just forget about boxing. No, he's got to box his way in intelligently in order to get his and also the things like in the clinches, he's got to take advantage of the clinches, because in the first fight in the clinches, he was just holding on for a rest himself. And so Usyk could get his rest. So whereas normally, when you look at the old school fights, look at Lennox Lewis, look at Tyson Fury now, whenever he gets somebody in a clinch, who comes out of that clinch knackered? It's the guy that he's fighting, the smaller guy. Because these guys know how to use that weight and use to drain you. Whereas I don't feel as though AJ did in that first fight. And that's something else that he's got to add to his game. And I think, again, to take away Usyk's legs, to drain him, to get him a little bit more static and not as sharp, things like that have to be incorporated as well.
How likely is it that Usyk gets the stoppage then, with that said?
It's possible. It's possible, isn't it? It is possible, because if you just said to me in the first fight, well, Usyk never hurt AJ at all, and he was commanding all the way through, and he won virtually every minute of the fight. It's a bit harsh, but most of the minutes in the fight, but yet he never put a dent in AJ. Then you can say, well, it's not likely. But I think that the first shot that Usyk landed registered on AJ, and he thought, oh, hang on a minute, he hits harder than what I thought. And then I think round 3 or something, he did look as. And then you look at the last round. Now that's a mixture. The last round is a mixture of AJ being absolutely shattered mentally and physically, and then taking those shots. Mm-hmm. But it was still felt it early on in the fight. Now that's with AJ being KJ. And this is where I'm saying he has to be intelligent on the way in, because if he's not intelligent on the way in, and if it is a case of just you grinding him down and gritting your teeth, biting down on gum shield and walking him down, he's going to walk onto shots which will be harder than they were in the first fight.
Yeah. I got to push you for a prediction then. Obviously, you've broken down the fight in a lot of depth, but how do you see it going with everything we've spoken in mind?
I think there's a lot for him to improve on. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm not saying he can't win, but I would say that for me, the favourite is Usyk. The favourite's Usyk for me, and I thought that before the first fight. I just think Usyk's his level of intelligence, and he hits harder than what you think, and his boxing abilities is brilliant. And yeah, I would say Usyk's the favourite.
Now, it looks like we're going to see Tyson Fury back. It never looked like we weren't for most people. But if Usyk then, let's say he wins, goes into a fight with Tyson Fury, just a quick kind of a view of how you'd see that fight, because it'd obviously be very interesting. It'll be fully undisputed as well.
Ask me after Usyk. It depends. I still think... I also, another thing that I think about Usyk is the time since the first fight is another thing that can go two ways. There's one thing where you talk about fighters growing into a division, more time that you're spending in that heavyweight, the more they're growing into it, they're filling out. But also, Usyk's had the brain situation going off and fighting the war and things. You don't know what that's done to him as well, mentally. You don't know how that's affected him. And people can say, oh, you're making excuses already. It doesn't. No, it's reality. This is something that's known. It's not like he broke his hand or he's had an accident or something like that. That's like serious shit. I don't know what, because I've never been in that position. Please never have to. But to see what he's had to see and to know what his people and his family and friends have had to go through and things like that. You don't know what that's going to have done how much has that taken away from Usyk, the fighter, going into this during that time. You don't know. So that's what I'm saying. This fight is very, very intriguing for me because it's not. I don't think it's just black and white.
No.
So going to what your question is as well about Fury, this fight. It's still a very, very dangerous fight for Usyk. I know I'm talking about how so much AJ got it, but AJ is the bigger man, and if he gets it right, and if him and Robert Garcia click, because that's a big thing. If they click, then AJ is going to be a much better fighter, and then we're going to see how does that pan out. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think they've been working on and off since December, so it is definitely going to be interesting. August the 20th in Saudi Arabia. Thank you for your time. I promised 10 minutes. You should probably start a podcast because we always have longer conversations than most, but it's been good.
Mate, cheers.